greatest sports debate show on the internet.
I will take my victory lap now because who was the one that was saying the Buffalo Bills window is closed? Oh yeah, that's right. It was me.
Championship rings. Starring Brandon Lewis.
Wait a minute, who's the one that didn't see Brandon Cooks clearly has the ball in his hand, goes down to the ground with one knee on the ground, and then nothing to say, it's an interception!
Honestly, I'd rather watch AHL All-Star stuff than the NBA All-Star game.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to all those that are Irish out there. We got the green theme going today. It is March 17, 2026. He is the host of the Sports Room Talk Show, Ungar to the Max. I am Brandon Lewis, the host of Brandon's World. Josh, we said last week was an incredible week in sports. Well, we had an incredible weekend in sports and a lot of news for the middle of March this time of year.
Yeah, and we got a significant trade earlier this afternoon, which I surely wasn't expecting, but clearly the Denver Broncos fully believe in Bo Nix because you go out and get Jaylen Waddle. Yeah, that's sending a message loud and clear. But I will say this. It's not just the ramifications of going out and getting Jaylen Waddle that interests me. Think about your team, whether they're going to move A.J. Brown or not. And the team that's most connected to A.J. is, of course, New England. If Miami got all of that for Jaylen Waddle, what's the asking price going to be for A.J. Brown if you're New England?
You know, there's some thoughts out there. You know, A.J. Brown, everybody is saying is an older player. Do you know A.J. Brown's only a year older than Jaylen Waddle? So the age difference to me is not that much. I personally believe that A.J. Brown is a better overall player than Jaylen Waddle. You know, Jaylen Waddle can be a number one edge wide receiver, very similar to Devontae Smith in Philadelphia. We don't know yet if he truly is one. And it'll be interesting because Sean Payton has never really had two dominant wide receivers, you know, even dating back to New Orleans. And we saw Cortland Sutton, I would argue, take a step back last year to Franklin, the other receiver on the other side, who really became a focal point in that offense. Evan Ingram was big in that offense. I expect R.J. Harvey in year two now to sort of take over that running back role. So how Waddle fits in along with Cortland Sutton's going to be interesting. You know,
and J.K. Dobbins, don't forget.
Well, J.K. Dobbins is a free agent, I believe. I don't think J.K. Dobbins is going to be back in Denver. Now, I could be wrong on that. I'll double check. But I'm interested to see, you know, do they float Cortland Sutton out there now as trade bait?
I don't think so. I think they made this trade because they want to pair Cortland Sutton and Jaylen Waddle together. And, you know, Denver, you look at them, they were already one of the top teams in the AFC last season. Obviously, they were the number one seed. They beat Buffalo in an absolute thriller, 33-30. Of course, you had the controversial, was it a catch, was it an interception, as we said in our intro.
Yes.
But that point aside, Denver showed that they are here and they are legitimate. And this trade really signals that to me that they believe that. You know.
So I want to correct actually both of those real quick. So we were kind of both right on Dobbins. He was a free agent. Denver actually re-signed him to a 2-year deal, so he is back.
Okay. So I like this for Denver because Bo Nix will be back at some point. Will it necessarily be at the start of the season? Don't know.
That's the thing. We haven't heard anything. All the offseason talk has been about Patrick Mahomes and obviously what Kansas City did this week, going out and getting Justin Fields. Denver, there's been no word on Bo Nix. I kind of feel like that tells me that they believe going in he's going to be healthy for the start of the year, or they would have, I thought, been more aggressive in going after a backup quarterback.
Which I kind of like that they haven't really said anything because it kind of keeps people in the dark. What if he's not healthy and they don't want people to know necessarily?
Well, also the weird thing is, remember when Sean Payton said, or I think it was Bo Nix who said something about his knee, and Sean Payton responded something about Bo Nix saying, "Oh, no, that's not true," or something with Bo Nix's medicals after the knee procedure. I remember something about it that was a little awkward.
That doesn't sound familiar. You could be right, though. But, it's going to be interesting to see how Jaylen Waddle goes from, being in the speed type of offense that.
Oh, here we go. So that's right. Remember this? Sean Payton, when Bo Nix suffered the injury, claimed the injury was inevitable due to a pre-existing condition. Bo Nix refuted this in the media, basically saying it was a one-time break, and he was unhappy over his injury history being shared by Sean Payton that he had previous ankle issues.
Huh. So that is an interesting spin on it, or I shouldn't say a spin on it. You know what I mean there. But as I was saying, it will be very interesting to see how Jaylen Waddle adjusts from being not just in a speed style offense like what they had in Miami with him and Tyreek and Devon Achane, but you're going from, the sunny, warm temperatures of Miami to Denver, where in the winter it could be a blizzard. It's going to be
But
freezing.
it could also be 60 degrees. I mean,
yeah, but
so by the way, this year Denver is at a record. Do you know Denver almost hit 90 degrees the other day?
No.
Denver is at a record winter where they just got some snow a couple weeks ago, but it was the lowest snow Denver's had in 20 years. Fun fact.
Interesting. But, Denver is, as I understand it, they want to build a new dome stadium.
Which is supposedly going to be right where the old stadium is, or at least right next to it.
I don't think so. I think it's in a different part, but I believe it's still downtown. But nonetheless, looking at this from Miami's perspective, this signals to me it's a full-on rebuild. But at the same time, who the hell is Malik Willis going to throw the ball to?
Well, whoever they draft in the first round with one of their 2 first-round picks.
Because you look at their current wide receiver room, there's nobody that really jumps off the page.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Jeff Hafley comes from Green Bay, where outside of this year, that they didn't really invest in wide receivers. I think Miami is sort of signaling we're going to be in for a soft tank, but we're in Miami, so we want to be entertaining and we want to get people to the game. So let's bring in Malik Willis. But I said it when they signed him, when they moved off Tyreek Hill. I remember coming on this show and saying, Jaylen Waddle makes too much money for a bad team. They should move off him. And for Denver now, Jaylen Waddle coming aboard, they absolutely do believe they are perennial Super Bowl contenders. My thing with Denver is, last year in the AFC Championship game, the football gods basically told them, no, you do not deserve to go to the Super Bowl this year because not only did your quarterback get hurt, but then you went for it on that 4th and 1. You didn't get it. The game turns into a blizzard in the second half. Will Woods kicks that field goal, and it was partially blocked or would have tied the game. And so it was consecutive no from the football gods to the Denver Broncos. And now all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes could be healthy again for the Chiefs. Mike McDaniel, the former Dolphins coach, actually, is now the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. We've already talked about what the Raiders have done this offseason. I kept saying all season for the Oklahoma City Thunder last year in the NBA. Take advantage of your window. Win the championship now. I sort of feel like maybe it's unfair. I know you're higher on the Broncos than me, but I felt like last year was Denver's chance and they didn't take advantage of the opportunity. And I do feel the same way about New England as well, by the way.
Oh, I 100% agree with you on New England. I don't agree with you about Denver. I think their window is just now opening. I was much higher on Jacksonville. I made a Super Bowl lock saying it's going to be Jacksonville, Chicago, but who knows if Brian Thomas is going to get traded. As you said, they've lost some pieces. Travis Etienne's not there, so I'm not as high on the Jaguars now. If I had to pick a Super Bowl favorite out of the AFC, it is the Denver Broncos.
If I had to pick a Super Bowl favorite out of the AFC right now, and by the way, Josh, just so you know, your microphone is once again popping a little bit on my back end, so you may have to disconnect it and reconnect it. I'm not so sure. If I had to pick a Super Bowl favorite right now in the AFC for me personally, I think it's two teams, and neither of them are Denver. I think it's Buffalo, and I think it's the Chargers, because I think Mike McDaniel is going to be that big of an upgrade for Justin Herbert, and I think this is the year. If the Chargers win a playoff game this year, then we cannot start talking about Justin Herbert like he's a weak quarterback anymore.
Oh, I agree with you. I would take the Houston Texans as still a top 5 Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I mean, their defense is good. I love the move they made today. They go out and they get Wyatt Teller. My question for Houston is, look at that division they're in now. It's not a cupcake anymore. Jacksonville is certainly going to be right there, though they haven't watched some pieces on defense. But if William Cohen is the mad scientist that fixed Trevor Lawrence, they're going to be good again. We don't know what's going on with the Colts, obviously, with Daniel Jones, but they were on the precipice of being maybe the number 1 seed in the AFC before he suffered an injury a year ago. And I got to tell you, the Tennessee Titans feel like a team that's going to make I don't know if they're going to make a major jump or not, but they feel like a team that's not a basement team anymore in the AFC South.
Mel Kiper, in his latest mock draft, I think has the Titans taking Jeremiah Love number 4 overall.
I get it. If I'm Tennessee, I think I got to take an offensive lineman. No,
I don't know. We can get into that later. But like I said with Miami, it's like it's like that Spider-Man meme, but there's 3 of them because it's not just Miami, it's the Jets and it's the Cardinals. They're all trying to tank for Arch Manning.
Is Arizona?
I think so.
I mean, they have pieces. We'll see how good Michael Ford is that coach. If they're going to win games with Jacoby Brissett, I don't think they're going to be in the Arch Manning sweepstakes.
I do.
All right, well, we'll get to that another day. Speaking of a team that wishes they're not going to be in the Arch Manning sweepstakes, Kyler Murray, who has signed a 1-year deal for the minimum because, speaking of the Arizona Cardinals, they're paying him to not be on their team next year. But the reports are that when Kevin O'Connell was pitching Kyler Murray to Minnesota, he told Kyler that he believes that he was the only quarterback in the free agency market who could be the long-term answer for Minnesota, which, regardless of what you feel about J.J. McCarthy, to me, I think Minnesota, and again, I like Kyler Murray. I've liked him more than most people. I think he's talented. I think Minnesota is moving on from JJ way too quickly here. He missed his whole rookie year because of the knee injury. He has struggled with injuries. He obviously only played in 9 games a year ago. And no, he wasn't great, but he had moments. And to me, if Kevin O'Connell is this great quarterback whisperer, wouldn't you want to focus on your investment on what you're saying? That was the old GM's pick. I didn't like J.J. McCarthy because that's my only read here.
Yeah, I don't get it. Unless they're taking the word of Justin Jefferson into account, which kind of makes sense because he's your big time wide receiver. He's one of the top. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, I would say. And if he's frustrated with JJ and he's like, I'd rather play with Kyler, you have to take that into account.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The Vikings won 9 games last year with J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and Max Crosby starting at quarterback. And I like Kyler. Again, I thought, silly me, I had picked the Arizona Cardinals to be the surprise team of the week 2 years in a row, and it hasn't worked out. So I thought when Kyler's been on the field, he hasn't been a disaster. But when you're in a division with Jared Goff and Jordan Love and Caleb Williams, I don't know how much of an upgrade Kyler Murray really is to help you get over the hump.
I think Kyler is a bit of an upgrade because he
yeah, again, but for me, the upgrade is like, are you going from a C or a C plus to a B minus? Like that's how I look at it.
Yeah, it's not like you're going from a C plus to an A minus or anything.
Yeah. Now, again, could Kyler play like the way Sam Darnold played and win 14 games and the Vikings could be viewed as perennial contenders? Sure. But even if Kyler Murray does play at a Sam Darnold level, I still don't think Minnesota's the second best team in that division because I think Detroit, if Detroit's healthy, them and Chicago, to me, are battling for the NFC North crown. And Green Bay is very good. We'll see how good they can be depending on when Micah Parsons gets back.
Yeah. And even, I will say this, even if Sam Darnold has a bit of a drop-off this season with Seattle, I still think Minnesota is going to look bad for letting him walk out the door.
See, here's my take, and this will be my take all along, and I will defend the Vikings on this. You drafted J.J. McCarthy. What was it? Number 9 overall. They traded up. Was it 9 or 10? I know they traded up one spot.
I think it was number 10.
Okay. Regardless, he drafted them high in the first round, the way Atlanta did with Michael Penix in that same draft class. I think it was 9 because Penix went 8 to Atlanta. Minnesota traded up one spot with the Jets to go get him at 9.
I think it was number 10.
I'll double check on that when I'm done talking here. My point is, you put all this investment in for JJ. I know he got hurt his rookie year, which starts. Which my other point is, if JJ McCarthy doesn't get hurt in the preseason of his rookie year, are we sure that Sam Darnold starts the whole year? Because I think they would have started JJ maybe halfway through year 1. And then last year, JJ, he struggled early, got hurt. Carson Wentz came in. And I thought by the end of the year, McCarthy showed some moments. Clearly, the Vikings did not think so.
By the way, I just looked it up. It was 10th overall.
Okay, thank you.
In the 2024 NFL draft.
Yep.
I didn't think Penix was in the 2020. Oh, yeah, because they played.
It was the grade 6 is what I've called it. Caleb, Jaden, Drake. And then you obviously have
Bo Nix,
and McCarthy. And Bo Nix was the 6th quarterback taken.
That's right. Yeah. And it was also because JJ and Penix had just played each other in the national championship.
And the biggest thing on JJ McCarthy, the scouts didn't love JJ McCarthy, but everybody said, oh, JJ's a winner. But everybody said he handed the football off. He didn't throw a lot in tight windows. But I just, it would be different to me if JJ McCarthy was healthy and he played bad and the Vikings were, in a position to draft high. They still won 9 games a year ago. Now, again, Kyler could be very good for them. I think the scheme fits a little weird. I'm interested to see Kevin O'Connell now with a mobile quarterback.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if they add more like designed quarterback runs to the offense.
And here's the problem. And, I don't think JJ McCarthy should ask for a trade at all because we've seen the value of what backup quarterbacks have done. Obviously, we saw what Mac Jones did last year for San Francisco, and Kyler has an injury history himself. So is it likely JJ McCarthy is going to start at least one game for the Vikings this year? I would say yes. But if I'm JJ, and I do read this report that says that Kevin O'Connell was thinking of Kyler Murray as the long-term answer, now I'm thinking, oh, great, they don't believe in me. So either you, A, show them that they should believe in you, or B, probably at the end of this year, you have to ask out.
I would think so. It's interesting, like, JJ's in this position. Anthony Richardson is in a similar position in Indianapolis. I believe he asked for a trade.
Yeah, and the Colts reportedly are going to grant it if they find the right partner. They're done with Anthony Richardson, who I think can still play in this league. I'm not going to give up on Anthony Richardson either. Like, I think the issue with quarterbacks in today's NFL, everybody says we don't have enough great quarterbacks. There's a quarterback shortage. It's because we're giving up on these guys way too quickly.
Yeah. Think about it. Like, if the Bears had theoretically given up on Caleb after his disastrous rookie season, I don't think they would have had the great season they had this season. Or
No,
this year.
I don't even think they're a playoff team.
No.
And I think Caleb Williams went from one of the most heavily scrutinized quarterbacks. Remember, there was all the talk about he doesn't want to watch film. He's a bad teammate. There was the nails incident in college at USC. He had this sort of bad rap coming into the league. And he went from that to, I think universally right now, he's considered the top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, I would say so. But no, you bring up an interesting point, and I'll bring it back to Kyler, because you had that whole thing in Arizona where he's like, no, I don't want to watch film. I don't want to study the game plan. Like, I'd rather wait
and
for
Kyler's
Call of
point,
Duty.
I would argue, because when Jonathan Gannon got there, I thought Kyler's career with Arizona was over. And he lasted, another 2-3 seasons? I think it was 2 seasons Gannon was there with Kyler.
Yeah.
And, it was rocky in the beginning, but I felt like Kyler played well under Drew Penning's system. Again, he's the new offensive coordinator in Detroit. Very similar system to what Kevin O'Connell runs in Minnesota. But the concern I have with Kyler Murray going to Minnesota is, are you going to have to play Chicago and Green Bay in November and December, cold weather? Because that's where Kyler's not at his best.
That I agree with. Man, that Caleb-Kyler matchup is going to be really good, though.
Well, think about all of the guys right now in the NFC North who are playing quarterback. Kyler Murray, former number 1 overall pick. Caleb Williams, current number 1 overall pick 2 years ago on the same team. Jared Goff, former number 1 overall pick for the Rams. Jordan Love, obviously first-round pick for the Packers. So I may be wrong here, but off the top of my head, I think that is the only division in pro football where all 4 quarterbacks that are going to be starters were taken in the first round.
I believe you are correct.
All right, well, to the NBA we go, because we have been talking about this for months, and the rumors have seemingly been backed up what we have talked about on this show. And the NBA Board of Governors, which they call it, because they weirdly don't want to be called owners anymore, they're going to vote next week for expansion. And the note on this is they're going to specifically vote on Seattle and Las Vegas. They're not opening up to any other teams, reportedly. These are the 2 cities. It sounds like the NBA is just going to almost make it happen, and they're just making the owners vote on it for it to be official. But it sounds like by the start of the 2028-2029 NBA season, the Supersonics will be back. Las Vegas will have a team, and either New Orleans, Minnesota, or Memphis will move to the Eastern Conference.
And of those 3, it sounds like it's really going to be between Minnesota and Memphis. But I don't think either team is just going to be like, yeah, we'll gladly go to the Eastern Conference.
Oh, I disagree. I think Minnesota, we will gladly go to the Eastern Conference because they will not have to go through Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, Houston's going to get better. Cooper Flag and the Mavericks, who I think will be perennial final contenders by that time. Whether the Suns try to make a move or not in the next couple of years, we'll see. I think the East, I know the Pistons are young and they're up and coming. Boston probably still has 3 to 4 good years left. Same with the Knicks. But it will not be viewed like the way the West has. The West has literally been the better conference in the NBA for the better part of 2 decades.
Yeah, but I don't think it's just going to be that simple to get a team to move conferences.
I think it will. I think if Minnesota says, Adam Silver, will you please move us to the East? I think it's going to be very appealing for the NBA because what did you get? A T-Wolf Spurs NBA Finals. And what if Wemby and Ant aren't even in their 30s yet?
Yeah, true. But honestly, from what I heard, the price tag for an expansion team is going to be like $7 to $10 billion.
Is that per team or is that combined?
I believe it's per team, from what I read.
That should be enough. And here's the other debate on this. People debated about, are they going to shrink the season? And the NBA owners are not going to go for it because they're going to lose whether they go from 72 games or 60 games. You're going to lose 5 or 10 home games a year. To me, the revenue you're going to make from expansion and from the TV rights of you getting a better product because you have good paying cities. We know the Supersonics will sell out immediately. Vegas, I don't think, is the market that it used to be, but we'll see how it does for the NBA, but it's still Vegas.
Well, let me push back on that because the Las Vegas Aces have done really well since they came in for the WNBA. You've got the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL. The Raiders are there. You've got the A's coming to Vegas.
Yeah.
It only makes sense. I will say this. Of course, I'm okay with Seattle getting a team. I don't love Vegas getting a team, but I understand it. What about Nashville? I'd love for Nashville to get a team.
How about the Grizzlies just move there?
Well, from what I understand, the reason Nashville can't get an NBA team is because of the Memphis Grizzlies and them being able to block that.
Again, you would know more about that than me. I mean, Memphis doesn't really have a pro sports team outside of the Grizzlies. I think Seattle and Vegas makes sense. It's going to happen. I do not think they should expand anymore. I think 32 is the max. I don't think you go to 34. If you go to 34, then sure, maybe Nashville gets talked about. And again, I think you could explore another city than Vegas, but Vegas has always been rumored for the NBA. And the interesting thing about it will be, will LeBron James, depending on if he's retired by then, which we all think he probably will be, or not, is he going to want to stick around so he can become a player owner type and maybe own the Vegas team?
I guarantee you there's going to be people lining up saying, I'll be the owner of the Vegas team. I'll be the owner of the Seattle team. Plus, Seattle recently got an expansion team in the NHL with the Kraken.
Yeah.
They are doing really well.
Now, here's the thing. I don't know this. Maybe you do know this. The guy that owns the Thunder, was he the original owner of the Supersonics?
No. Howard Schultz was the owner of the Supersonics. He sold them to Clay Bennett and an Oklahoma City-based group.
So maybe the guy who used to own the Sonics, maybe they want him to come back as owner.
Oh, God, I do not want Howard Schultz back as the owner of the Seattle Supersonics. No way.
Or who knows? There was that rumor out there for a little bit that Mark Cuban was trying to get an investment group to buy back the Mavs. Maybe he pivots.
Maybe. That would be an interesting sight. But, dude, think about this. When the new Seattle team comes in, that first game between the Supersonics and the Thunder is going to be absolute must-see television.
So I think there's a chance you make that the Sonics' first game back, no matter how bad the Thunder are at that point. If SGA disappears off the face of the planet and something happens, you could always do the Lakers, obviously big brand. Again, I think the Spurs are like those would be my three choices: Thunder, Lakers, Spurs.
Yeah, I think for Vegas, it probably would make sense to do the Lakers. But
yeah, because here I don't think Steph Curry will be around anymore. So I don't think Golden State. If the Clippers are good, maybe you do the Clippers.
maybe, but it's the Lakers. They're gonna have Luka, so maybe New York.
Yeah,
But because it seemed like, here's the interesting thing, like with the Cavs. Remember the first game back for LeBron as a Cavalier? It was on national television against the Knicks.
yep.
The season after, when we had our ring ceremony and the banner raising, it was against the Knicks.
That's a good point because obviously the Knicks are a huge draw. And I know there's all this thought about, the NBA could split it by divisions, 4 teams per division. If you're going to do it that way, I said it last week, make divisions matter. Make the top 4 seeds, in each conference division winners.
Yeah. You mean like how the NFL does it?
Yeah, and like baseball does it. Top 4 seeds are division, and then you'll have 4 wild cards. I think they should shrink the postseason. They'll never do it. I would shrink it down to 6 teams per conference, 12 teams total, and no play-in tournament. That's just me because I know we've had some miracle 7-8 seed runs here recently, but it's not common in the NBA. A 7 or an 8 seed has never won the NBA title. Of course, it's a first time for everything. There's only been 1 6 seed in the history of the NBA that's won the title.
Yeah, you're right. It's not common. And for God's sakes, like, who expected the Indiana Pacers to go on their miracle run? And they were a number 5 seed.
Yeah. So, okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the Houston Rockets, the team who before the season, if you recall, Josh Ungar, somebody on this set predicted them to be hosting the Larry O'Brien Trophy at the end of the year, and then Fred VanVleet decided to tear his ACL, and my whole prediction went to hell. And supposedly this whole team went to hell because since the trade deadline, Kevin Durant's out here tweeting about players on his burner account. Ime Udoka, who used to be a tough guy, has no control of this team, and they feel like a team that has just sort of floating in the wings, but they've lost their identity.
Yeah, and it feels like they are so Kevin Durant dependent that, like, Amen Thompson, who we thought was a budding superstar, is just kind of average now. I'm not that high on Jabari.
I wouldn't say Amen's average. I think he's a very good player. I think he's had a regression this year, but I don't think it's fair to call him average.
But, like, I would say
he's not playing at the level that we both thought he could get to, which would be a top 5 player. I think he's more, to be honest with you, I think he's more in that Bam Adebayo range. Very good player, can be a number 2, can be a number 3, but will not be a number 1.
I feel like the reason I'm calling him a little closer to average is because, like, he's not consistently putting up the numbers we expected him to. It feels like he has one of those games, but then he'll go through a stretch where it's like, okay, he got like 10 points this game, or does that make sense?
I mean, this year he is averaging 18 points and 8 rebounds a game, which is above average. I mean, it's what Bam Adebayo averages.
True. Like last night, he had 19 for the Rockets,
yep.
who lost to the Lakers 100-92. They play each other again in Houston on Wednesday.
And what could very well be a preview of the first round. And if you look at the Western Conference standings, it's the Lakers, it's the Rockets, it's the T-Wolves, and it's the Nuggets, all fighting for that 3 through 6 spot. Somebody trying to avoid OKC in round 2, and somebody trying to avoid San Antonio in round 2.
Yes, because right now the Lakers are a game and a half up on the Rockets for that number 3 spot. And I believe that if the Lakers win that game tomorrow, they would own the tiebreaker.
You were correct. They would own the tiebreaker over Houston and Denver. I know that for sure.
Okay, so the winner of tomorrow's game in Houston will own the tiebreaker because the regular season series is tied 1-1, and tomorrow marks the final regular season meeting between the Lakers and Rockets.
So it's funny because I think the only team the Rockets even have a remote chance to maybe beat in the first round is the Lakers. Because I don't think they could beat Denver, and I certainly don't think that they could beat Minnesota.
I think they have a better chance of beating Minnesota.
Really? Because I think Anthony Edwards would do to Kevin Durant what he did. Now, I know Ant's out right now, which Minnesota could drop your order. Maybe they drop to the 6th seed because Ant's going to miss 1 to 2 weeks. But I think when they get to the playoffs, remember a couple years ago when Phoenix came in with all that momentum and Minnesota dog-walked them in 4 games? I feel like they do the same thing to Houston.
Minnesota hosts Houston on Wednesday, March 25th.
Because the one thing we do know about Anthony Edwards, we both have said this now over the last couple of years, he front runs.
Yes, he does. And that's why you and I have both been saying, can we please get Anthony Edwards a running mate? And it feels like the Timberwolves have not done that.
I'm very interested in the Western Conference playoffs. Again, the one series that I really want to see is Denver, San Antonio. I hope it happens. And the weird thing about the NBA this year, if you look at the standings, really all 10 teams are locked into the playoffs. No one's going to move up and get into that play-in spot. And I think 7 through 10 is mostly locked up.
Yeah. And with the Rockets, it feels like since Fred VanVleet is out, they have to play without a point guard.
They don't trust Reed Shepherd, who was supposed to step into that role, and I said I thought he could do it. Apparently, he can't.
Yeah, and Kevin Durant, I think in his post-game press conference was like, I don't want to be the primary guy at the end of games.
No, well, he basically said, I don't want to be the primary ball handler.
Yeah, his teams are now starting to double team him
which he never was. Even in OKC, who was the primary ball handler?
It was Westbrook.
In Golden State, who was the primary ball handler?
Steph.
In Brooklyn, I would argue the primary ball handler was Kyrie or Harden before Durant. And in Phoenix, maybe he was a little bit, but it was mostly Chris Paul when he was there for a little bit. And then Devin Booker turned into that guy because they used Durant more off the ball. Ahmed Thompson's not really going to be that guy. I wonder if you use some of Sengun's skills, because he's very similar, I would argue, to Nikola Jokic. I think Sengun's a star on the rise. But have him bring the ball up.
He was out for Monday's game against the Lakers.
Right.
He's back for the rematch on Wednesday.
But I think if he's back, I think that you have Sengun be the primary ball handler in late game situations. Because it can't be Durant. And Reed Shepherd, for some reason, just wants to shoot the ball.
Yeah. The Rockets make no sense.
So the reason why I love them coming into the year is because I projected Fred VanVleet to be the primary ball killer. Then I projected an increase from Ahmed. I also projected Jabari Smith to break out, and he hasn't really done that. So all my projections for Houston, which also included, San Antonio is going to be good. I didn't think Stephon Castle would basically turn into this incredible running mate next to Wemby this quickly. it was sort of, I think Oklahoma City's going to have a good regular season, not great. And yet they're having a great regular season again. So all of those factors is why, yes, I have moved off Houston.
Yeah. Like in their last game, let me talk about the Lakers for a second because LeBron only had 18, but Austin Reeves had 15. Luka had 36. I think that's kind of what the Lakers want is for Luka to be the primary guy and Austin Reeves to be that kind of secondary guy and LeBron to be that third guy. I think this is how the Lakers want it to look.
I'm here to say this. That game Saturday night was incredible. Maybe the game of the year. What is about the Nuggets? The Nuggets always play great games. Win or lose, I swear they are maybe the most entertaining team to watch because they're always in a game at the buzzer. But if the Lakers do not play Houston in the first round, so if they were to play Denver or if they were to play Minnesota, they will be going home in no less than 5 games. Because Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves together in a playoff series, I don't think is enough alone to beat teams. And teams will hunt Luka on defense, and teams will hunt LeBron on defense because he can't play defense for 48 minutes anymore. And those 3 guys cannot combine for the majority of their scoring. And they get nothing basically from the bench outside of maybe a 3 here or there from a Luke Kennard.
Yeah. I mean, DeAndre Ayton is their starting center, and in 27 minutes, he only gave them 7 points.
I would argue next to Anthony Bennett, he is the most disappointing number 1 overall pick in recent memory. Because the Wizards drafted that kid, or I'm sorry, it was the Hawks, the foreign kid, a couple years ago, the guy that went before Sarr. Nobody,
Zachary Richichet.
Yeah, nobody expected him to be a good player. DeAndre Ayton was viewed as one of the Suns' best players, and then he got into that fight with Monte Williams and Gainesville when Luka Doncic basically sent that version of the Phoenix Suns to the shadow realm.
Yeah. No, but you're talking about their bench. In the game against Houston, Rui Hachimura, 23 minutes, 6 points.
There you go.
Jackson Hayes only had 7 points.
And they can't rebound. I mean, Hayes and Ayton are their bigs. They don't rebound.
Oh, I'm sorry. I screwed up. Jackson Hayes in 12 minutes had 0 points. It was Jake LaRavia that had 7 points. And then Luke Kennard, 17 minutes, 0 points.
Again, you can't win a playoff game that way. You can't win a playoff series. You may be able to win 1 or 2 games. I think Luka could will them to maybe a 1-round playoff win. Again, depending on who they play. That Rockets-Lakers series smells like a 7-game stink show if it comes to fruition.
Yeah, I don't like a Rockets-Lakers series.
I mean, it'll be entertaining. You got LeBron versus Durant. The NBA loves to promote the old people.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah, that's why the Rockets played the Lakers on Christmas this season. I saw that. I'm like, seriously? Like, couldn't we have done something different?
I'll say this, though. I do not think yet Houston should regret or think they made a mistake by trading away Jalen Green for Durant. I still think it was the right move at the time. Unfortunately, circumstances are what they are this year. I think next year Houston will be better.
You know, you talk about Reed Shepherd, 31 minutes off the bench, only 11 points. The only other bench production they got was Dorian Finney-Smith, who had 8 points.
And back to the Lakers real quick. Is Austin Reeves maybe the best undrafted player in the last decade?
Oh, he's got to be. I mean, like I said, he had 15 points. You know, that may not sound great, but
the other night he had 30.
Yeah.
And you know what's weird? And it goes back to the 5th thing. So Luka and Austin Reeves play well together. LeBron and Luka play well together. Reeves and Luka play well together. So the duos, all of them together, play well. It's when all three of them are on the court together, they don't play well together.
Right. Against Denver, he had 32.
Yep.
Against Chicago, he had 30. Against Minnesota, he had 31. And against New York, he had 25.
I mean, Austin Reeves is basically what the Lakers hoped Kyle Kuzma would be.
Oh my God! Kyle Kuzma, I forgot he would. I think he's with the Bucks.
He was with the Wizards, and I think you're right. He did go to Milwaukee, who, ironically, the Cavs play tonight, and they're in a. I don't know what Milwaukee's going to do. I know this is completely off topic, but they are stuck, and they are like. I don't want to say that they're the Steelers because they're worse record-wise than the Steelers, but they're like, we're going to try to be 500 every year. Yay! We still have Giannis to sell tickets.
Yeah, we lost to them in Milwaukee last time, literally by like a fingertip. It was like 118 to 116. So this is the fourth and final meeting of the season between the Cavs and the Bucks. Honestly, I don't really care. I had it set to record on my DVR, but then I saw that we'll get to this later, that the World Baseball Classic final is on tonight, and I'm like, nah, I'd rather watch that.
Before we get there, though, who is cutting down the nets? March Madness is here.
I was at the MAC tournament the other night.
Akron for the third straight year, pretty much at the buzzer, and then the Friday night game against Kent State. By the way, Josh, I meant to text you this, and I totally forgot. You want to talk about a rivalry? How about the greatest rivalry in all of sports, Kent State versus Akron?
Oh yeah, I love that, dude. That's one of the most underrated rivalries ever.
Obviously, I'm personally in it because I went to Kent State. Double burn to you, Akron.
I've been to Kent State Akron games at Kent State and at Akron. They are fantastic. But I went to the MAC championship, Akron Toledo. Akron trailed in that game by as many as 12 points.
Yeah, they're down by 12 and a half. Toledo almost a Cinderella run to the tournament, and then Akron does what Akron always does.
That three-pointer with like 6 seconds left, it was amazing.
When he shot it, I said, that's no good, and then it kept going. I said, oh, shit, that's good.
Yeah. But I'll tell you this. It was really frustrating trying to get into Rocket Arena for the MAC championship. I completely missed the national anthem, completely missed player introductions, missed tip-off, missed a couple minutes of the game.
Really?
Because one of the entrance I usually go in to scan my ticket and all that was blocked off, so I had to go outside, go around to one of the other Sherwin-Williams entrances, join a huge line. It was not good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a disaster.
Only the lower bowl was open. They had the top part closed off, but I don't know what it was, but
was it so was it because they only sold the lower bowl tickets, so they blocked off all the entrances, or just the lower bowl?
No, I don't know. I don't know why, but only the lower bowl section was open. Yes, Loudville was closed off. Club level was open, but that aside, it was a great atmosphere. Like, I love going to March Madness games. When March Madness was here last year, I went to the two second round games: Alabama, St. Mary's, Michigan State, New Mexico. I love college basketball. I
understand that. I would never go to a March Madness game because I think the thrill of March Madness is being at home watching. I mean, Thursday and Friday is incredible. It's the two best days of the year. What is it? 11 straight hours of nonstop basketball parade for some random school you never heard of to get an upset.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I really want to pick Akron to upset Texas Tech, but I just don't see it.
Last year I thought Akron was going far in the tournament. This year I do not.
Yeah. But you look at the tournament, Duke is rightfully the number 1 overall seed. The big debate was who's going to be the 4th number 1 seed. Was it going to be Florida or UConn? I think they made the right decision going with Florida, but I understand.
I agree.
I understand if you think UConn should have gotten it, but they look completely outclassed by St. John's. But it's so hard to predict. Like, I just finished one of my brackets and I picked Arizona. I just think Arizona has been the most complete team. I think Jaden Bradley looks legit. I can't wait for him to come into the NBA. That dude, he can score, he can rebound, he can defend. My God.
The top 13 picks in this draft are supposedly in this tournament. I think Arizona is going to get 3 or 4 people drafted in the first round, along with Michigan.
Yeah, and Duke, obviously.
Yes.
But there's so many teams that you can make an argument for, like Duke, UConn, Florida, maybe going back to back. Arkansas, I think, even as a 4 seed.
I agree. They ran for that SEC tournament.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin has a chance to do some damage.
Virginia, I think, has looked very impressive going back to the ACC tournament. They got a lot of momentum right now.
Yeah.
St. John's as well. I think St. John's been playing as one of the best teams in the country over the last month.
So let me ask you a question, because we did not have a lot of Cinderellas in the tournament last year. It basically went chalk for the most part. Do you think that trend is going to continue this season?
So I'll answer that with my bracket. So let me go ahead and unveil to you my final 4. Okay.
Okay.
Representing, and I have it on paper, by the way. I printed it out. I filled it out so it is official. Representing the East, I do not have Duke representing the East in the Final 4. I have the UConn Huskies as the 2 seed representing the East in the Final 4. Who do they play in the Elite 8? I do not have Duke making the Elite 8.
Oh, really?
I have Duke losing in the Sweet 16 to St. John's, who, as a 5 seed, I think St. John's will defeat Northern Iowa. Then I think they will defeat Kansas. I think they will defeat Duke, and then they will lose to UConn in the Elite 8.
But before you continue, Duke is going to win their first round game. I think they're playing Siena or something.
Correct. And then they will play the winner of Ohio State and TCU.
I think if Ohio State beats TCU,
which I have, by the way,
I think Ohio State, I'm not saying Ohio State's going to beat Duke, but I think Ohio State could give Duke some problems.
I don't trust Duke. Every year, and I get it, Duke's an incredible team this year. Boozer, they have other guys as well. Every year, we've heard the hype about Duke, whether it's different players. Jason Tatum, Zion Williamson, Cooper Flag, and they have not brought the championship home. And you look at St. John's is in their region. Kansas is in their region. South Florida, who I love, by the way, is the 11th seed. That's my one upset in this region. I have them knocking off Louisville. They're in this region. Michigan State is in this region. UConn is in this region. That is a very tough region, in my opinion.
I have Duke coming out of this region, but I did seriously consider having them lose in the second round against Ohio State, because I think if Ohio State can get their guards going in that second round game, I think they could theoretically beat Duke. I really do. I like Bruce Thornton, and
for sure.
It's just the rebounding that I'm not sure if Ohio State can out-rebound Duke.
So I have technically one 10 seed or lower making it to the second round in the East region, that being South Florida. I
Okay.
have them defeating Louisville, but I have them losing in the second round to Michigan State. And pretty much, I will tell you right now, I only have 3 first round upsets with a lower seed win. So I do think it's going to be more of a chalk tournament this year.
Okay.
Now,
Go ahead.
I'll go down to the South region, so the left side of the bracket. So I already said UConn. In the South region, my Elite Eight matchup, I have number 1 seed Florida taking on number 2 seed Houston. I think Houston's out for revenge this year. I think it's really tough in this day and age. I don't think Florida's as good as the UConn team with Dan Hurley that went back to back a few years ago. I think that Houston, as the 2 seed, represents the South, and I have 2 versus 2 on the left side of the bracket.
You and I have the same Final Four, or the same 2 in those 2 regions, because I also have UConn facing Houston.
Okay. In the West,
I made a mistake earlier by saying I had Duke coming out of that.
Okay, so you have UConn and Houston.
Yes.
Okay. In the West, my one upset in this region is going to the 9-8 matchup. I like Utah State. They shoot the free ball well. They have a lot of great guard play. They're very tenacious on the defense side of the floor. I have them upsetting Villanova. So,
I have Villanova winning that game.
Okay, well that by the way, that's my last first round upset. So my only real upsets in this tournament are I have South Florida upsetting Louisville. I have Iowa. I forgot to say this. I have Iowa in the South upsetting Clemson, that 9-8 matchup. And then I have Utah State, the 9-8, upsetting Villanova in the West.
Okay. I don't think any of those are too crazy.
So, my Elite 8 matchup, this may be one of the best matchups in the tournament. By the way, think about the Elite 8 matchups that I have at least. St. John's, UConn, Florida, Houston, and I'm going to add to this now, Arizona against Gonzaga. That is a 1 seed versus a 3 seed. I think Gonzaga will knock off Purdue in the Sweet 16 to get there. Arizona will knock off Arkansas in one of the best games in the Sweet 16. That game will probably go down to the wire. I love what Few has done at Gonzaga, but like you said, I think Arizona, when I watched them against Houston, that game a few weeks ago, the same day Duke and Michigan was on, I watched Arizona, and I thought they were the best team in college basketball. So I like Arizona being a 1 seed here and getting out of the West region.
Okay. We're in agreement so far.
Okay.
I think this last region is where we're going to disagree.
Okay, interesting. So in the Midwest, my Elite 8 matchup, I have Michigan as the 1 seed. They're taking on the number 3 seed of Virginia. And I do think that the number 1 seed Michigan, who has, in my opinion, their best team since the Fab 5 team, they can shoot. Now, they have been a little bit vulnerable. They lost to Purdue in the Big Ten Championship. They almost lost to Ohio State there in the semifinal. But I think if they can lock in, play good defense, shoot the free ball well enough, I think that Michigan is the second 1 seed to get to the Final Four, and they will take on Arizona.
This is, like I said, this is the one region where I disagree because I actually have Virginia coming out of this region.
Okay, do you think so? But do you have them facing Michigan in the Elite 8?
Let me double check on that. Yes, I do.
Okay, so that's really the only difference. You have Virginia knocking off Michigan in the Elite 8.
Yes.
And that was a debate for me, but I think Michigan is a team that this year should make the Final Four, the way they have played all season long.
Yeah, and then I'll let you go first with your Final Four.
Okay, I'm going to say it like this. The national championship game, I have number 2 Houston trying to win it this year after losing last year to Florida. I have them taking on the Arizona Wildcats.
Okay. I have UConn taking on Arizona,
Okay. I have Arizona winning the national championship.
as do I.
So that's kind of strange because I feel like Duke is the heavy favorite, but I've heard more people say that Arizona is going to win the national championship more than anybody, which scares me.
Arizona, I get why Duke is the overwhelming favorite, but Arizona just looks like the most complete team. You got Jaden Bradley, you got Del Orso, I think is his last name, coming off the bench, and he can shoot. They have size. They play tenacious defense. Arizona, in my opinion, is the most complete team in the tournament.
Now, I will say, out of the Big 12 as well, I thought they'd get a terrible draw in the Sweet 16, or I would have really liked this team. It's Iowa State out of the Midwest. That Iowa State Virginia game, I mean, this Sweet 16, I have Arizona, Arkansas, Gonzaga, Purdue, Michigan, Texas Tech, Virginia, Iowa State, Houston, Florida, Illinois, Houston, Florida, Nebraska, Michigan State, UConn, Duke, St. John's. All those teams are pretty much blue bloods.
Yeah. And honestly, if we get that Duke St. John's matchup, I'm going to actually pick St. John's to win
That's
that.
what I have. I have St. John's taking on UConn in the Elite Eight because I have St. John's beating Duke and I have UConn defeating Tom Izzo and Michigan State.
Let me see. Yeah, I have Duke taking on St. John or Duke taking on UConn, but I'm actually switching that. I'm going with UConn against St. John's. And what scares me is St. John's has basically owned UConn this season.
Yeah, and I mean, by the way, though, you look at this round of 32. We can get St. John's versus Kansas. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Sign me up.
I did, in the East region, I did think about having UCLA lose against Central Florida, but
I thought about it too, but I don't know. I just feel like with the NIL and the brand, I think the big brands are going to be successful in this tournament. I think UCLA has played well enough and better competition in the Big Ten to where they can win at least one game.
I actually just decided to make the switch. I don't fully trust UCLA. I think UCF sneaks out a win. One of my other upsets, I know Vanderbilt has been playing well, but I think McNeese is going to beat them.
That's one I know a lot of people like. That's one where, like, if McNeese wins, let's see, where are they? Okay, so McNeese wins. They would play Nebraska, who I think is going to beat Troy. Like, McNeese is a good candidate for Cinderella. I think they could probably beat Nebraska.
Yeah. But the one I really like is VCU. I think VCU, I've got them facing Houston in the third round.
Everybody's got them beating North Carolina. I think I'm going to take North Carolina because I think they've heard. I think that's the most common upset. I think they've heard it. I know Caleb Wilson's not back. I think that team would have been a 3-4 seed without him being there. I think they're still a pretty good team. I have a weird feeling they're going to beat VCU pretty soundly.
And from what I heard, if VCU hadn't won the Atlantic 10 championship,
they would have not been in.
Yeah. By the way, how did you feel about Miami of Ohio? They lose against UMass in the quarterfinals of the MAC tournament, and now they have to play in the first four. Are you all right with that, or do you think they should have just been in the tournament straight up?
I mean, I think that excuse me, they as a team overall probably deserve to be in the tournament. The problem is you can't really put two MAC teams in the same field.
Yeah, and also like I agree with you about them being in the MAC. And when you look at their schedule, Sure, they can't control necessarily who they play, but they didn't play anybody of note. And
No. And
they,
the analytics do say that Akron was the better team.
yeah, I think Akron's one conference loss was against Miami, and it was a close game, but Miami didn't blow anybody out. Most of their games came down to like the final possession.
Yeah, I mean, could I make a case that maybe Miami's better than like a Holmestra or a Wright State? Maybe put them in over them and give one of those two teams the first four. But let's face it, nobody that plays in the first four theoretically is going to win a round, let alone two. So it
Yeah.
really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
No, you mentioned Hofstra though. I forget who they're playing in the first
They're
round.
playing Alabama, who Alabama's not playing great, but like they should be able to beat Holmstrom.
I don't know. That one's a little tricky, and I actually gave a lot of consideration to having Kennesaw State beat Gonzaga because Kennesaw.
Wow.
I did give consideration to it. I did not choose it. I stuck with Gonzaga.
Well, you have till Thursday at noon officially. You can still change it technically.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's just something about Gonzaga. I'm like, I don't know if I fully trust them. And we've seen Kennesaw State, get into the tournament, cause problems.
Do some damage, yeah. I'll tell you what. I don't know if there's going to be a big Cinderella this year. I hope there is, but it hasn't felt like it all year. It's felt like a dominating year from the Blue Bloods.
When was the last time we had a true Cinderella? Oakland?
I would say it would be NC State a couple years ago with DJ Burns that got to the Final Four.
Oh, yeah, when they were like an 11 seed or something, right?
Correct.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say they were a Cinderella. I would say the Cinderella would be more like what St. Peter's did.
Or I would argue like of Chicago, right? They got to the Final Four as well.
Yeah, like what St. Peter's did, or when Oakland took down Kentucky, and I think
that was a wild one a couple years ago. That was the bracket buster. I am curious, what is going to be the bracket buster this year? You're right. Could it be Alabama? I don't trust Purdue. I mean, I think they'll get by Queens, but could they lose to Miami? Maybe. Like, I don't know. Maybe Florida, I think, is a candidate who, again, they're a good number one seed, but they got to go through Iowa. They got to go through potentially Nebraska or Vanderbilt. They could go out early. So I think it's going to be a very interesting tournament.
I hope it's like, I don't want it to just be chalk. I don't like that. Last year's tournament, yeah, it had great games, but and it had exciting games. Don't get me wrong, but having it just be chalk got a little boring.
I would argue I wanted to be chalk because my bracket says it's going to be chalk, and I want my bracket to do well.
But you get what I mean, though, about like if it's chalk, it gets a little boring.
Well, it just depends on how good the games are. I want better games, and Cinderella stories and rooting for those make for better television. Sometimes they don't make for better games, though.
I want a good mix of both. Like
I agree, but it also depends on who the Cinderella is. Like if it's Oakland and they're a boring team to watch, no, I don't want to root for them.
I'm not saying I would root for the Cinderella, but
that's what I'll do. When it gets to the Sweet 16, I'm rooting for the Cinderella all the way because it's cast. That's when it gets fun, in my opinion.
That I agree with. You know what else is fun? When corporate Cody shakes hands with people.
Huh. We'll talk about that in a minute. We got to get to the World Baseball Classic first, though. I know you're not a big baseball fan, but Josh, I have been locked in on this World Baseball Classic from start to finish. It has got my excitement for baseball through the roof right now. And who would have thought, out of all teams, Venezuela, not only did they come back against Japan on Saturday, here they are last night. They're down 2-0 to Italy. They make the comeback, and now for the first time ever, they're in the championship game tonight against a U.S. team who is trying to finish the story, if you will, from losing in the final 3 years ago.
Yes. And this game is being played at the Marlins Stadium, Lone Depot Park, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. It's in Miami. Yep.
So I don't think the U.S. is going to have home field advantage.
No, they are the designated home team, but it's going to be a Venezuela crowd.
That is what I mean. So the U.S. is going to have to deal with that. And we'll see.
And the fact, Judge and Bryce Harper and all these guys are saying that these crowds have been louder than World Series crowds.
You know what it says to me? And this speaks to a larger thing. Because we talked about it. Like, you were even invested in the gold medal game between the USA and Canada.
Yeah, I got up at 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning to watch it. And I want to say this, because I've said it multiple times in this show, that I have made a mistake. I had previously thought that patriotism in this country, especially when it comes to sports, doesn't mean as much as it used to. I'm wrong. It's the one place where I think patriotism is more than ever. And these players and these fans clearly care. And the U.S. and the Four Nations thing in hockey started it. And then you had the Olympics. Now you're going to have the WBC. And it just makes you excited and getting ready for the summer 2028 Olympics, when not only is there going to be flag football, not only is there going to be basketball, but baseball's coming back to the Olympics.
I agree with you on that. And the World Cup is going to be in North America, and
yes.
you know how big soccer is. By the way,
I may even watch it, and I've never watched 2 seconds of soccer on television in my whole life.
I've been to a couple Columbus Crew games. They are fun.
I always enjoyed playing soccer in gym as a student in school, but I have never watched a soccer game on television or even remotely cared about it.
Interestingly, during the LA Olympics, Columbus is going to host some of the games.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, but no, getting back to this, like you said, you've been way more invested in the World Baseball Classic than I have, but I have been following, and I know what happened with the U.S.-Italy game where Mark DeRosa was like, well, we already have things locked up. We don't really have anything to play for.
Yeah, I wanted Italy. I thought it would have been the storybook ending to this tournament. Venezuela, by the way, do you know who's on their coaching staff? It's unbelievable. Their pitching coach is Yohan Santana, and their hitting coach is Miguel freaking Cabrera.
Oh, I love Miguel Cabrera. But here's the interesting thing, and what really makes me interested is think about like the Kansas City Royals, for example. Salvador Perez is on Venezuela, and Bobby Witt Jr. is playing for Team USA.
Yeah, Cal Riley refused to shake hands. I know it was of Josh Naylor, and then somebody else, maybe it was Julio Rodriguez.
I think it was Randy Arozarena.
Oh, you're right. It was Randy Arozarena, and then I think it was Naylor was the other guy.
That one I don't know anything about. I only know about Randy.
But again, it's like, yeah, we're teammates, but this is about our country, bro. We're not teammates, we're enemies. I think Cal Riley had every right.
Yeah. I think there's other teams that are in this position. Like Luis Ariz is playing for Venezuela, but one of his teammates is playing for Team USA.
Yeah. And then Italy, of course, if they would have made it, you had Vinny Pessantino and Bobby Witt, Bobby Witt Jr. is just incredible, man. The Royals are lucky he's going to be their franchise star for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I hope the Royals, actually are in the mix.
The Royals, Guardians, and Tigers are going to be a really fun AL Central race this year. They should be, theoretically.
Yeah. For me, the Royals are one of those teams that when the Kansas City Royals are good, Major League Baseball is fun to watch.
And I thought Paul's schemes in this tournament, especially with his performance Sunday night against the Dominican, which was chef's kiss to baseball. I know the pitch was low. It should have been ball four. ABS systems coming in this year for a reason. I get it. But nonetheless, I mean, Sunday night, you had 19 guys that received at least one MVP vote a year ago in one baseball game. It was better than the MLB All-Star game.
Yeah. I did not watch it because I was watching AEW Revolution.
Which we'll get to. It was a big weekend in wrestling.
Yes, we will definitely get to it. But no, I definitely was following him, was still knew what was going on.
No, I was on the edge of my seat. I watched every pitch.
And I understand that. Trust me, I'm trying to get more into baseball. It's not like I'm a big baseball hater and I will never watch it. I tried to watch just about every game of last year's World Series. I went to Game 5 of the ALDS a couple years ago between the Guardians and Tigers when Lane Thomas hit the grand slam. I went to Game 4 of the ALCS between the Yankees and the Guardians, but I don't want to talk about that game anymore because it gives me PTSD for personal reasons, which I will not talk more about. There's certain teams for me that when they come to Cleveland, I'm like, I want to see them. Like anytime the Boston Red Sox come to town, I'm like, I gotta go see them. Like, I don't know.
The Dodgers are like that for me because of Ohtani, and I got to see him hit a home run on the very first pitch of the game.
Yeah. I'm looking into going to the Cubs-Guardians game on Sunday, April 5th here in Cleveland.
Easter Sunday.
Yes. If that does happen, I will be fully decked out in Chicago Cubs gear.
That's right. You are a Cubs fan.
Yes. I've never seen the Cubs in a regular season game. I've only seen them in a spring training game out in Arizona.
All right. Well, I mentioned it a little bit earlier.
As did I.
It was a big weekend in professional wrestling. Started on Friday and went all the way to basically Monday morning at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about... Well, do you want me to go into AEW first, or do you want to talk about Corporate Cody?
Let's do it in chronological order. Let's talk about Corporate Cody and the Randy Orton heel turn first.
Okay. As I said earlier, Corporate Cody needs to stop shaking hands with people because he just gets, bloodied and screwed up. It happened with John Cena. What happened? Heel turn. It happened with Kevin Owens. What happened? Heel turn. There's other examples, but I can't think of them off the top of my head.
The last few years, he's made The Rock turn heel. He's made John Cena turn heel. And now he's made Randy Orton turn heel. Except for, I do think there is a little bit of difference with this heel turn. Because I know Randy is acting heel, but I'm sorry. I still don't think that the WWE crowd is going to boo Randy Orton at WrestleMania. You're going to have to change his entrance music if you really want Randy as a heel. And I think there is so many possibilities you could do with this. You could do Randy winning the title. You could do Cody retaining the title. You could have Sami Zayn being involved. Maybe he screws over one of the individuals. Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu are reportedly going to do a match this front end SmackDown. Does it lead to a stipulation match at WrestleMania, or are they not doing that match at WrestleMania anymore? Kevin Owens is supposedly going to be back by the summer. Could you do a heel Randy versus a babyface Kevin Owens at SummerSlam?
Yes! Yes!
Could you do a babyface Randy versus a heel Kevin Owens at SummerSlam? You could.
Oh, you got me so excited with that.
I mean, that's what I mean. There are so many possibilities. I think the story that they could be going down the route of is, like you said, everybody that Cody Rhodes has talked about, whether it's Sami Zayn, The Rock, John Cena, Randy Orton, he made them all turn heel. And then eventually, what if there's no friends for Cody Rhodes left? And that's when Cody turns heel. I don't know. And now Randy Orton's talking about Cody. There's more than one royal family. Is Randy going to bring back Cowboy Bob freaking Orton? Is he going
I
to bring?
think so. But
Is he going to bring back Ted DiBiase Jr.? I mean, I would love to see it. I think there are so many different stories you could go with this. At this point, right now, I don't know who's going to win at WrestleMania.
see, I was talking with C-Boss and one of my other friends, Brian, about this while we were watching Revolution. And it's why, as much as I hate CM Punk, I'm actually heavily interested in the Punk Roman Reigns feud. Because, yes, it's about the World Heavyweight Championship, but it's the way they're doing the feud, it's way more than that. Like, that's when I get interested.
Here's the thing about Randy and Cody. Randy Orton is justified because Randy Orton's been looking over his shoulder at that title for 2 years. And Randy told Cody, this was supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be Drew. But you stole the moment, which I think is an important part because Randy may have technically turned heel. In my opinion, Randy's not the one in the wrong. Cody's the one in the wrong because he's been denying him a title match for 2 years.
Yeah. But you get what I'm saying? Like, the reason I'm so invested in this is not just because it's Randy Orton and I consider him the GOAT, but it's because this feud isn't just going to be over the WWE Championship. There's going to be so much more to it. Jumping over to AEW for a second, like Revolution a couple years ago, it's why I was so interested in Bryan Danielson versus MJF leading up to their Iron Man match, because their feud wasn't just about the AEW World Championship. It got incredibly personal between those two. And I'm like, yes, this is what I want. When it's just, oh, we're having a feud just because it's over the Intercontinental Championship, or it's over the WWE Championship, or it's over the AEW International Championship or the World Championship, whatever. I'm like, okay, I don't care. But when you add more story to it, I'm like, now you've got me interested.
So again, I'm very interested in what they're going to do on the SmackDown side of things. There's so many things you could do post WrestleMania. You could go into Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn. We still don't know if they're going to reveal who knocked off Jacob Fatu's baby teeth because I still don't believe it was Drew McIntyre. We could do Drew McIntyre versus Nick Aldis at WrestleMania now. It's on the table. I just think there's so many little things that, and you know, I know people online, Ryan Alvarez and Dave Meltzer from The Observer, were having this conversation the other day about WWE has no idea what this card for WrestleMania is going to be, and we should have had a direction after the Royal Rumble. Isn't that the point, to make it unpredictable? 2 weeks ago, who would have thought that we would be having this conversation that Randy Orton was going to turn heel and face Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania? Nobody.
But you're 100% right. Like, nobody was cheering Randy or nobody was booing Randy Orton, because this is the version of Randy Orton that we've been wanting.
Well, it's not that. It's Randy's so popular, and once he came back from that back injury, it's kind of like Edge and his neck injury, and obviously now Cope, who is back in AEW, returned with Christian at AEW Revolution. We'll get to it. You know, they tried to turn him heel with the Judgment Day. It didn't work because he's not a heel. He may have good heel instincts. He may have good heel characteristics. You don't want to boo a guy that was out of action for 9 years. We thought Randy Orton may never wrestle again. No one is going to boo Randy Orton because he's that damn good.
Well, my friend Brian was talking about this while we were watching Revolution. The reason they had to boot Edge or Adam Copeland from the Judgment Day was because Cody and Randy were both injured, so they needed a top babyface.
But it also wasn't working. Nobody was booing Edge.
Well, that's right. I disagree. And he said it like people were just starting to boo him. And like
maybe a little bit, but it took time. And I think it's gonna take, like, if you're gonna boo Randy Orton, I think it's gonna take like him RKOing Brandy Rhodes or some shit.
Which we've seen him do that type of thing before.
I mean, you theoretically could have him repeat 2009 and handcuff Brandy to the ropes and make Cody be like Triple H and Brandy be like Stephanie.
Yeah. You know, but I feel like people are starting to boo Cody more.
I think Cody is trapping himself in the same situation he trapped himself in at the end of his AEW run. I feel like we're watching the same exact run.
I would agree with you.
But the problem is he's still doing tremendous merchandise for WWE. And you watch the videos online of Cody beating Drew for the title on that SmackDown. The crowd went wild for Cody. He's still getting the reactions for the most part in the arena. And because he's doing such great sales and the merchandise and, the Make-A-Wish and all that, similar to Cena, I don't think WWE wants to turn him heel.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like, slowly all of his friends are turning on him. As of right now, he only has 2 left, Sammy and Jay. And
I wonder now, because here's my other thought. So, Brock Lesnar is facing Obafemi, who Obafemi's a fucking monster. Yes, I'm saying fucking because that's what he is. He's a goddamn fucking monster. Love the kid. I wonder now, does Logan Paul and Austin Theory walk in as the World Tag Team Champs and you do them against Seth Rollins and LA Knight? And maybe the Usos align with Roman Reigns and maybe the Bloodline becomes heel again. Maybe they turn. Maybe that's how Roman beats Punk. And maybe the Usos become heel. And then they target Cody again.
It feels like they're going to do the Vision versus the Usos at WrestleMania.
Well, they're doing it next week on Raw. That's my point.
I missed that.
That's the match next week on Raw. The Usos against Logan Paul and Austin Theory. Now, it's not for the titles, so maybe there's some shenanigans. But I don't think you're running that match 3 or 4 weeks before Mania to put it back on Mania. I could be wrong.
Seth isn't medically cleared, so I don't get what his direction is right now.
That's why I think maybe by WrestleMania, Seth is medically cleared and you have Seth Rollins and LA Knight face off against the Vision.
I guess. But
because otherwise, what are you going to do with LA Knight? Put him in a match against Penta?
I don't know.
And here's the other thing, and I know that there's a lot of complaints online right now, but what are they doing with Gunther? He retired AJ Styles, he retired John Cena. He doesn't even have a match for WrestleMania. Remember a couple of years ago when I told you WWE has a main event problem? They have too many stars they can't put in the main event.
Yeah.
Here we are now. There are people saying, why isn't LA Knight the world champion? And I said, gee, I wonder why. I don't think he'll ever get a shot at the world title. There's too many damn people at the top of this card.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you going to put Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, and Gunther's going to face Brock at SummerSlam? We're already assuming that. So that's going to take one main event spot up. You only got one main event slot left.
Yeah. And I would even put Trick on the verge of being in that main event.
Yes. And a lot of people think Logan Paul was there. And Logan Paul, he's a great heel. I get it. Some people want to see him win the world title. I said, win the world title? Who the hell is he going to win the world title from? Punk? That's about the only guy he could.
And before his injury, I thought Braun Breaker was going to be in the main event.
That and Seth Rollins. So at the start of January, we had the conversation that it was going to be Punk versus Breaker versus maybe Rollins. And then you were going to do Reigns and Rhodes. This whole thing for WrestleMania has been turned completely upside down.
What I was reading is they were originally going to do Drew versus Cody. Roman versus Cody inside Hell in a Cell.
And then it was going to be Cody versus Drew inside Hell in a Cell, and then obviously that got switched.
And I think it was because of the injuries to Seth that they and them putting the title on Drew.
Very interesting time in WWE. And of course, from your perspective, AEW has been hotter than ever. And they just ran a pay-per-view that got a lot of good reviews. And believe it or not, I did see some of this.
Okay. Overall, it was a very good show. By the way, did you see the story on Cultaholic that WWE actually pays some of its employees to watch AEW?
I did see that. For some reason, I don't buy that. I don't. A company that wants to maximize profits or paying someone to sit at home to watch AEW, that would be some real petty bullshit.
I think it's true. But nonetheless, Revolution overall was a very good show. I don't usually say this about pay-per-views, but it was too long.
Oh my God, I'm shy. I thought you were going to say it was perfect because it was the same length as All In.
By the time we got to the middle of the Texas death match, I was like, okay, I want to go to bed.
See, that's the thing about AEW. And I think everybody can agree with this about pay-per-views. Everybody says WWE paces like a snail and AEW gives you 15 matches. It's somehow, some way, they should both meet in the middle. I think if AEW is going to run their pay-per-view model the way they are, you have to start this thing at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, no matter where you're at.
Here's the thing. Generally, I don't feel that way about AEW pay-per-views. Like, normally I'm like fully invested, to steal the line of Jacob Fatu, all gas, no brakes, but like there were just some matches
when you're 4 hours in, I'm about done, no matter how great the show is.
Yeah.
This thing started at, technically, if you want to include the 0 hours, 7 p.m. The real thing started at 8 p.m. The Oscars ended about 10:30 or 11, and the AEW pay-per-view lasted about 2 more hours.
I know. And the Texas death match, oh God. Normally I'm fine with Texas death matches. Like, when AEW puts them on, it's going to be wild. It's going to be violent. But when I saw MJF stick the freaking syringe,
I was going to ask you about this spot. What did you make of that?
I was like, no,
I'm shocked. I am shocked because I thought you would like it.
No,
so
it would.
Here's my thing.
Too far.
If that was the only match on the card that they did that spot in, and there was the only match on the card where they had extreme weapons, and there was blood, and it was crazy like that, would have been okay with it because you're ending a feud. But when 9 out of the 12 matches on this card basically is a no disqualification match and everybody's got blood streaming from their head, you feel like you're watching the same thing over and over again.
Well, no, that was every other match was basically a regular match. No other match had.
Yeah, but everybody's bleeding.
Here's the thing. I understand that. I'm not saying you're wrong or you're crazy.
They may have a regular match, but everybody's bleeding. That's why I think what WWE did with Cody on Friday, it was like, holy shit, Cody's bleeding, because you don't expect it. If that was the only match of the night, and you saw MJF and Hangman Page both bleeding, and maybe they did the syringe spot, and it was a little bit disgusting. But correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they do a similar spot with Swerve and maybe it was Hangman Page or somebody else in a similar pay-per-view?
So they did that spot at All Out 2024, yes. Steel Cage Lights Out match, Swerve, Hangman, and they did the syringe spot.
Yeah. So again, when you've seen the spot, it's hard to do it again and get the same pub, in my opinion.
I did not watch that pay-per-view because it was just a couple weeks after All In, and I didn't want to do $50 again. I was like, no, I just...
To that point, I'm dead serious about this. if I could get the AEW pay per view just on HBO Max, not having to pay the additional, I think it's like $20 or whatever it is, I would watch the AEW pay per views. I'm not paying an additional $25 for a product I don't even watch on the regular already to watch some of the matches I might have been interested in.
Yeah. Most of the matches though were really good. Like I enjoyed most of them. There were a couple matches where I was like, okay, that didn't need to be on the pay-per-view. Like the women's tag team title match, that should have just been on Dynamite. Like I didn't need to see it. The Tornado Trios match, it was really good, but I was like, that could have been on Dynamite. Andrade Bandito, it was quite good. And I understand.
Andrade got a big pop from what I saw. It looks like he's getting over a little bit in AEW.
Yeah, I think it's because he's actually like, he's put off all the nonsense and stuff that he was doing in his first run. And he's actually like putting in the work. Like, for God's sakes, he beat Swerve. I think he beat Kenny Omega, and he had a really good match with Hangman. Which I'm so curious to see what they're going to do with Hangman now, because he can no longer
challenge.
Yep. And I don't think he's going to WWE or anything like that.
No, I doubt it.
But
it's interesting. You mentioned Kenny Omega. He returned. You had
Will Ospreay
returned. You had Edge, excuse me, Adam Copeland and Christian return. You had Ronda Rousey, out of all people, make her AEW debut.
Which I don't think she's going to be all elite. She does have that MMA fight coming up in May.
That's true. They didn't put out the graphic. Then why was she there?
Because I think she's going to do something with Marina Shafir, because they both come from like an MMA background. So it might be like, I think it's just going to be a one-off thing.
Honestly, I hope that's the case, because I was going to tell you, Ronda Rousey in AEW sounds like a CM Punk to AEW 2.0.
Oh, I don't think Ronda would work in AEW. No way.
Her last run in WWE, she basically said that wrestling was fake and she'd beat the hell out of everybody.
Yeah, and she basically crapped on the fans.
She buried the product, is what she did.
Yeah. So for her to even show up was, very much so unexpected.
I will say this, AEW does make a pay-per-view look big. I mean, everything that I saw, the Crypto.com arena, the lighting looked great. The arena looked good. They know how to put on pay-per-views. It's just, again, even for you, a hardcore dedicated AEW watcher, the thing's going 6 hours long.
Yeah. And like I said, I normally don't say like, okay, this is too long when it comes to AEW pay-per-views. But like I said, by the time we got to the middle of the Texas Death Match, I was like, okay, just end it. I want to go to bed.
Well, it also was on a Sunday, which is the other issue. People got to get up and go to work.
Exactly. Like my friends Chris and Brian didn't leave until like almost 1, because they had to call a lift because my parents had gone to sleep, and I don't drive, so I couldn't take them home. But I know you and I are both going to the TNA pay-per-view. I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't run that late.
I doubt it. I would think 3 hours max.
But the one issue I'm gonna have is I don't have AMC, so I'm not gonna be able to follow TNA. So
I have AMC and I don't really watch them. I'm going there to watch the Hardy Boys. I think I told you and Jaylen that a couple weeks ago. I don't think you really need a follow. I think that's the one great thing about wrestling. You can go to a wrestling show, know nothing about the product, and have a wonderful time.
See, I slightly disagree. I think you should know, like, why are these people having a match? Like,
I think the crowd environment is what will get you there, though.
Yeah, but like if you haven't been watching, you're not going to be as invested. So like, you know, when when AEW came to Cleveland for Beach Break a few years ago, I thought about taking Seaboss to that show, but I was like, he's never seen AEW before, so like I wouldn't want to put him in that situation where he's like, who are these guys? Or like, why are they having a match? And then have the crowd around us being like, why is he having to explain everything to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, I don't want to do that. So like when we go to TNA, like I'm not going to know why, for example, Mustafa Ali is having a match against, like Nick Nemeth, if that ends up being a match. You know
Well,
what
can
I
I ask you a question? So you're going then because you just want to check it out, or what's the reason?
Yeah, because I want to check it out. I want to see what TNA is all about. Like,
Well then, I don't think you should be concerned about not knowing the product. I think you should go in totally cold turkey and see if you like the product, because that's how you got into AEW. Basically, the first time I would imagine not knowing anything about it, maybe knowing some of the wrestlers, but it was a brand new promotion.
I don't even, I don't even remember how I like
Because I got
started.
in AEW because I did watch the 2019 inaugural Double or Nothing, and I loved it. I was hooked. What turned me on AEW was it started becoming to me less AEW and just less entertaining once Cody Rhodes left AEW, ironically, in 2022. And then WWE got hot, and then my viewing habits changed, and I just never got back in AEW. But I did watch Dynamite full time for about a year.
Um, Dynamite tomorrow, or yeah, tomorrow is going to be nuts. It's a no holds barred match between um Tony Storm and Marina Shafir. And it's a coffin match between Darby Allin and Gabe Kidd.
Yeah, I know Tony Khan's trying to make it a super Dynamite, and again, like I like WWE obviously more than you, so I watch Raw and SmackDown. I cannot watch wrestling 7 nights a week. So I just make my choice, and my choice is WWE, and your choice is AEW, and that is okay. And I think the conversation that is becoming more and more prevalent is these two companies are separating themselves more and more. If you want to call it competition, you can call it competition, but they're pro wrestling, but that's about all they are in terms of similarity.
I know you don't think it'll ever happen, but my God, if we ever got like some type of pay per view where AEW wrestlers were facing WWE wrestlers, it would feed families for years.
It would feed families, but unfortunately, there's no benefit for WWE in doing that show. There's a great benefit to AEW, which clearly somebody in WWE, as you mentioned, does not want AEW to be successful.
Because WWE is paying people to watch AEW.
Did you hear that story that Vince McMahon a long time ago paid Daniel Bryan to watch AEW when Bryan Danielson was still in WWE to tell Vince what they were doing that they weren't?
No, but Bryan
That's a
did.
true story.
So I don't know, but
well, Josh, you're headed to Germany next week, so you're going to be off the next couple of weeks. I will be here. We don't know yet who will be filling in for you next week. On Thursday, April 2nd, Sean Fitzgerald from Voltage Live will be joining us. And Fitz is a big baseball guy, so I'm sure we'll preview the Cleveland Guardians opener and talk more baseball on that show. But you are going to be enjoying Germany for the NCAA tournament.
Yes, I am. So I don't know how much of the NCAA tournament I'm going to watch. I'm going to try to watch as much as I can, but, I'm going to be 6 or 7 hours ahead.
Yeah.
So, a 7 o'clock game Eastern time, that it's going to be completely different Germany time.
Well, Enjoy your trip. When we come back, we'll resume our pleasantries. We'll be about a couple weeks out from WrestleMania. The NBA playoffs will be right around the corner, and an NCAA champion will be crowned, and we'll be fully in NFL draft mode. So the sports world will not be stopping.
That is correct.
And we'll see you guys soon on Championship Rings. Have a wonderful night and enjoy the finals of the WBC.
Bye-bye.